And Brandon, it's time to close out the podcast doing what we always do here on the Onside Kick, making our picks for this week. This one's going to be an interesting one because you have no record coming into this week for this, but you will have. Here's what I'll do. Although it won't count against Mark and I because you won't have one each and every week unless you want to submit picks each and every week. Basically, you'll just have a record, and the next time you're on, I'll be like, here's your record, and you'll make picks again. But for Mark and I had a bad week this week.
Yeah, how'd you do?
I was 9-6-1 because we had a tie. Second time we've had a tie this year. And Mark was 10-5-1. So that brings me to 19-11-2 on the season. It brings Mark to 16-14-2. So I still have a 4-game cushion, 4-game cushion on Mark, if my math is correct. But we'll hopefully bring it in. And I've got Mark's picks. He put them on the spreadsheet, thank God. And we'll have all 3 picks in this one. But the first one, Thursday night action, the Browns actually a 3-point favorite against the Jets. Who are you looking at in this one?
I think most likely it'll be a 3-3 tie. To have the Browns
so I should
go
put
to
you down for the tie?
1-2. No. So this is a game where actually, believe it or not, a year ago you would have looked at this and been like, how the hell did they get prime time?
Mm-hmm.
So
well, everyone gets a Thursday night game. Remember when it was Bills Jets, and we were like, ugh, that's a primetime game, and it was the colorblind game.
Yes, yes, it was. I also don't like that everyone gets a Thursday night game. Not everyone should be getting one because they're not that good to actually watch on a Thursday night. But Jets, Browns, both of these teams are much improved. Their defenses are good. I think that we could see a 16-13 game. I don't think we're going to see a high-scoring affair. And in this one, it's a tough one for me, but I'm going to say the Cleveland Browns, they get the win. They're at home.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going with the Browns in this one. I went on the Jets hype last week. The Dolphins smacked me down and said, no way are the Jets beating us. I am not buying the Jets again this week. I think the Browns will win a couple games this year, and after this week, they will be 1-1-1, the trifecta after 3 weeks for the Browns. Mark is the only one going with the Jets. He's going Jets, Jets in this one. I feel like this is a Mark pick where he's trying to catch some games on me and feels like this could be one where he can get a win in the win column while I get a loss in the loss column. Then we got the next game we're going to pick. This is an afternoon game, but based on how our ESPN thing is set up, because the Bears are listed as a team for the Onside Kick account because Mark likes the Bears. The Bears and the Cardinals, yes, this is a 3:30 game, but we're going to pick it earlier than usual. What are you thinking, Bears and Cardinals in Glendale, Arizona?
If the Bears don't win this game, pack it in and go home for the season. Pack it in and go
You sound like
home.
a young Ricky Widmer in 2013. If the Vikings don't beat the Browns, then we should just pack it up and call it a year. And we lost to Brian Hoyer. And the
Have you
Browns
seen the
year.
Cardinals? They've scored 6 points through 2 games, have they not? I mean, awful. I mean, horrendous. So the Chicago Bears defense, if the Bears defense continues to play how they do, the offense may not even have to touch the field because the Bears might score all the points defensively. So the Bears should easily, and I'm saying it, easily win.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to go the same. Mark and I are going the same route. Mark, because he always picks the Bears. That's just how Mark, Super Bowl, Super Bears for Mark Weber. But for me, this Bear defense should demolish. Like, I wouldn't be surprised either if we saw what we saw in week 1, correct? Like, you watched that game week 1 against the Packers.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised. I'm not hoping this happens. I'm not saying that I hope this happens, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Bradford gets injured by Khalil Mack in this game because they injured Aaron Rodgers again. We kind of loosened that jar for you last year. Made that leg a little bit susceptible to injury. But, yeah, you injured Aaron Rodgers. I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Bradford goes down this one, although I am on record saying I am not hoping that he gets injured because I want a good year from Sam Bradford this year, but all 3 of us going with the Bears. Then we got an interesting one, an NFC South matchup. 1-1 Saints going against the 1-1 Falcons. Falcons are a 3-point favorite at this point. I am personally buying the Saints in this one. I haven't liked what I saw from the Falcons so far this year. I think last week for the Saints was a little bit of they just ran into a really good defense, and Greg Williams kind of knew and is kind of familiar with what the Saints want to do. So you had that on the other side for the Browns. So that's why I'm going Saints to get the win here in Atlanta. Mark is on the other side. He's going with the Falcons to beat the Saints. You be the tiebreaker. You going New Orleans or Atlanta in this one?
New Orleans in the first game against Tampa Bay, that was not the defense that I thought we were going to be seeing this year. That's not the defense that I said would get New Orleans to 13-3, or was that my 14-2 week I couldn't count?
As soon as the game ended, first comment, you're wrong. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I love it.
I expected to be 100% on my predictions.
So it was a game that you looked at and you went, whoa, what's happening here? But then we forgot that it was sprinkled with that Fitz magic. And then the Falcons.
Well, that Minka Fitz magic, because he trademarked it. Don't forget that. Minka Fitzpatrick went out and trademarked it, so Ryan Fitzpatrick couldn't. But Fitzpatrick's sitting there going, I don't care. I look like Conor McGregor.
That's hysterical. But the Falcons, while even they got the win last week against Carolina, their defense didn't look good. The Falcons are already banged up fairly early. Like Andy Levitre, I think, is out for the season. They lost another guy, and I can't think of his name right now, but they lost another one in the game on Thursday night in week 1. The Falcons defense is something that's a bit shaky to me, and I don't think that they've yet to find their offensive identity. They were better this past week, but they still haven't found it. They haven't gotten... While yes, Julio Jones was involved a lot in week 1, it didn't get them a win. So they need to figure something out. I think that the Saints are going to get this win.
And the one thing, too, is that we'll see if I think his name's Kazi, safety, who's taken over for Neal, who's injured. We'll see if he learns how to tackle and that you can't tackle a sliding quarterback with the crown of your helmet like he did and got tossed in that game against the Panthers last week. Next game, we've got an interesting one. Jimmy Garoppolo going up against the guy we just talked about, the hype machine, Patrick Mahomes. What are you thinking about this one? Chiefs are a 6.5-point favorite.
Got to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that Patrick Mahomes will continue to stay consistent. I'm not saying that he's going to throw 5 touchdowns or 6 touchdowns, but I'm saying he's going to be really effective. He'll win the game. The 49ers and the Chiefs, both of them scare me defensively. So it's going to be which offense is going to be better. I think it's going to come down to Kansas City's. They have more weapons.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well. Mark's actually picking the Chiefs too. And for me, I feel like if the 49ers are going to win this game, it's because Jimmy Garoppolo just goes, you know what, I'm not losing this game, and just goes pound for pound with Patrick Mahomes, which I don't see happening. I see the Chief offense doing more against the 49er defense than Garoppolo doing against the KC defense in Arrowhead. Plus Arrowhead, tough place to play in the NFL. Moving forward, though, a Miami game, 3-point favorite, the Dolphins taking on the Raiders, who John Gruden through 2 games is 0-2. I wonder what this team would look like with a little bit of a pass rush, though. If only we could have seen that. What are you thinking about the Raiders and the Dolphins heading into week 3? Because I'm picking the Dolphins.
Ryan Tannehill's been really efficient so far to start this season to get them to 2-0. Ryan Tannehill, what is it? The stat the other day that he is 9-1 in his last 10 games, dating back to the season that he was fully healthy, skipping last year and going back to, what would that have been, in 2016 then?
Yeah.
9-1 in his last 10 games. That's pretty impressive. You really can't pick against that. And the Raiders, you're right, the pass rush is not good. They, defensively, they're not that great. And you know how one can figure that out? The day Derek Carr had last weekend, as effective and as efficient as he finally was finding Amari Cooper. Didn't matter. Defense stunk. Let the Broncos right back into it. You're down 19-7, and you lose 20-19. That's all you got to say. The Dolphins win.
Well, and of course, I'm going to bring up the pass rush each and every time the Raiders lose, because it still blows my mind that after week 1, John Gruden goes, yeah, well, we didn't have a pass rush in this one. Huh. I wonder why, John. I wonder why you didn't have a pass rush. Maybe if you didn't trade him to the Chicago Bears, you'd have more of a pass rush. Then the easy game in my book, if you got Kirk Cousins, go ahead and start him while you got him. Vikings are a 16.5-point favorite over the Bills. Mark is going Vikings. Shocker, because usually he picks against them, but I guess the Bills are just that bad this year. And you know I'm going to skull up. Vikings going to get revenge after that tie. Go to 2-0-1. Who are you thinking in this one?
Josh Allen's going to be standing in the pocket this week and going, oh, crap, oh, crap, oh, here they come.
He's going to be on the ground.
He's going to be looking at film of how Eli goes down for the sacks when they come and bust through his offensive line. So Vikings all day.
Then the next one, we've got the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles hosting former Eagle coordinator Frank Reich, the homecoming for Frank Reich as the Colts come to town. Eagles are a 6-point favorite. Who are you taking? Carson Wentz in the return, Andrew Luck, and the Colts. Who are you going with?
Colts have been better this season. They've looked better. They had a good game this past weekend, and they even played a pretty good game against Cincinnati, who, again, as you mentioned in a couple of these segments here, I think it was in the Pittsburgh one, that Cincinnati's looking like a lot better of a team. You only had them pegged for 3-4 wins, and it's certainly looking like it's going to be more than that, unless they completely implode. But I think that with Carson Wentz returning and seeing what finally looked like the Eagle offense was starting to come to life, Zach Ertz was getting involved. Corey Clement got involved from the running game and did enough to be able to kind of put himself back on the map. They lost, I get it, but they were playing a good Tampa Bay team. You had Nelson Aguilar getting involved. With Carson Wentz coming back and being at the helm, I think that is going to spell some really good things for this Eagle offense, and they're at home. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles.
If Carson Wentz was not coming back for this one, I would have picked the Colts, but Carson Wentz makes this Eagle team better than what they were. And I was talking, I think it was either Dave this weekend at dinner when we went out, or you yesterday in between segments of the Primetime Podcast, where Nick Foles, I'm not taking anything away from the Super Bowl run last year.
You talk to me.
But they hit a run. Like, they hit a solid run, and Nick Foles, it was on our fantasy cast, that's what it was. They just hit a run, and it's different coming into a season after already winning the Super Bowl. You get a different mindset. The Eagles have looked hangovery this year. I think Carson Wentz comes in. This whole mindset for this team changes just because of Carson Wentz now being the guy. Because let's be honest, Carson Wentz is still hungry. He technically, he's got a ring, but technically he didn't win that Super Bowl. And there are going to be people that say for the rest of his career, unless he wins one of his own, that you're a Super Bowl champion, but you didn't win that Super Bowl. You weren't out there for your team. So I think Carson Wentz comes back hungry, much like a guy who hasn't won a Super Bowl, even though he's got one, and the Eagles get the W. Then the next game, and this one I'm most interested in because I almost picked the Redskins in this one, because they're an interesting team to me. I feel like AP is he's not AP of old, but he's a little bit rejuvenated.
Looked bad last week.
Well, yeah, looked bad last week, but week one looked really good. I just think this Redskin team is very inconsistent, and we're going to see some good weeks, some bad weeks. The Packers, we'll see what they look like on the road for the first time. Aaron Rodgers, how is he going to look? Didn't look terrible last week, but I'm glad we didn't play him in fantasy because he had just a pedestrian day when it came to fantasy. But I picked the Redskins last week. They bit me, so I've got to go with the Packers to get the win, to go to 2-0-1. Before I get to your pick, though, Mark also picking the Packers, and I got a question for you before you make your pick. What is your opinion on Clay Matthews and how he is hating the roughing the passer penalties so early in this year? I think he called them bogus, is what he is saying.
I think that it's tough because as a defender and as a pass rusher, you're a guy, you're just trying to make plays, and every single one, there is going to be contact. If you are going after a quarterback, you are going to have some contact there when the ball is released. And I'm
sorry, he said out of control. That's what he said.
It's one thing to, I guess, look at that and say, well, Clay, you just can't do it. But for someone who knows that's going to be difficult to say you just can't do it. These guys are going full speed. It's not slow yourself down. You can't. You can't do that. So you just have to, I guess, try your best. Don't make the stupid, blatant plays and then just hope that they're not going to call you for it on anything else like that. That's all I'm going to say, because I think that's where we're kind of at right now. I think just as the referees are trying to get it right in terms of what they've been told to do and what to call and what to look for, the players, I mean, they're going to go out there and play. I mean, they're the ones going out there and playing. They're not thinking of outside of, well, I can't smash this guy in the face with my helmet, so I won't do that. But they're out there trying to play. They're not thinking about, well, was he going to flag me for this or not? So I think it's I think we've had some discussion about it so far, but I think so far, if you're Clay Matthews, you just got to go out there and keep playing.
Who you got in the game?
I'm going with Hobbly Wobbly and the Packers.
Okay, and the one thing I will say is I did not see the one yesterday because at the end of that game I was here recording the Rick and Johnny podcast with Johnny. But the one that I will say is, out of control. But I saw that one on Mitch Trubisky, and that was clearly a roughing the passer call. So, I mean, there's part of me with Clay Matthews where it's like, dude, come on. Like, the one I did see, like, it was blatant. Mitch got the ball, and you pushed him late in the game to send a message to a quarterback after you already had the victory. And I find it funny that both of these roughing the passers for him came when his team had the lead, where it's like, I know you're trying to get to the quarterback, but you got to be a little bit smarter with these rules. Next game, we got the Panthers. We've got the Bengals. This one taking place in Carolina. What do you think in Carolina, the early favorite here early in the week?
I just don't think the Panthers have enough weapons. I don't. I mean, you look at what Cam was able to do last week, and his final stat line was pretty good, but it didn't lead to a win. I think that even with Joe Mixon out for the Bengals, if they're able to repeat what they did last week, and that's not necessarily 3 touchdowns to A.J. Green, but distribute it to so many different receivers. You give it to A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, Eifert, Uzama, all these different guys, and then you get Giovanni Bernard in there. He's already the guy that was coming in on third down and passing downs anyways. So there's another guy that you can go to. I think that's what I trust more. Right now, I trust the Bengals offense a little bit more than I do the Panthers, because with Greg Olsen out, you're looking at DJ Moore, who just had his first catch for 51 yards and a touchdown this past weekend as a rookie. Devin Funchess hasn't gotten himself involved yet. There is not much more after that. Torrey Smith's there, but I'm not really confident right now with the Panthers offense without Greg Olsen there to kind of help it flow. I'm going to go with the Bengals.
Yeah, Mark is in agreement with you. He's picking the Bengals. I'm going with the Panthers in this one. And the reason why it's very simple is this to me has nothing to do with football, why the Panthers will win this game. This will be the first game in Carolina since the hurricane that hit the Carolinas just last weekend. I feel like this is one where Ron Rivera gives a speech to the guys in the locker room before it. They come out to a very emotional Carolina crowd, and they just ride that into a win. Because week one, when they were at home, they did look good. I know it was a close game against the Cowboys, but Cowboys looked bad. Panthers got the win. I think they get the win at home. The Bengals are not going to go undefeated this season. Then the next game, I think this one's easy. Like, I went against the Jags. Like, here's how much of an idiot I am, Brandon, and how bipolar I am sometimes. So in the preseason, not only did I pick the Jaguars to win the Super Bowl, which right now 2-0, even decimated with injuries. They're like, hey, we'll beat the kiss of death. We'll take that on. And they're so far en route to being the only team to break the kiss of death, which would end my kiss of death, which I would be sad for. So I'm kind of rooting for the kiss of death. Like, I'm kind of rooting for the Jaguars not to make the playoffs because I want the kiss of death to go on.
Just go ask Dave to get all their players in fantasy.
Well, it's funny. Leonard Fournette, kiss of death, there's one. Dave has him in fantasy. There's two. He didn't have a chance. But I picked them to beat the Patriots in the preseason prediction, which went into my final record and everything. But then last week for picks, I bought into what I saw the Patriots week one and was like, yeah, the Patriots are going to win this game. I'm not picking against the Jaguars again. Jaguars over the Titans in Jacksonville. I got to go with the Jags. Mark is agreeing with me. Who do you got?
Yeah, you got to go Jacksonville. Their defense is too good. Their offense clearly showed that they've got enough last week. Clearly last week it didn't even matter.
No.
They still beat the Houston Texans. But Jacksonville, they're at home. Their fans are loving it. They actually have fans at their games now. So
they don't have to tarp anything off.
Jaguars get the win.
Well, and next we've got the one of the last 12 p.m. games. We've got 2 of them left. First, we are going to do the Broncos and the Ravens in Baltimore. 2-0 Denver going into 1-1 Baltimore. The Ravens a 5-point favorite. What are you thinking?
If the Ravens play defense like they did the other night, there's no chance for them. If Joe Flacco starts off as slow as he did the other night and plays a first half like he did last Thursday, there's no chance for them. The Broncos, what they showed last week against the Raiders, resiliency. And I really like that. And I really feel good for a guy like Case Keenum, who was discarded by the Minnesota Vikings. Hey, thanks for getting us here, but we don't think you're going to be good enough. So bye, Case. Oh, hi, Kirk. How are you, buddy? This is a great landing spot for Case Keenum right now with the Broncos. They have the weapons. They seem to definitely have the running game, whether or not they're going hot hand or whoever has the hot hand, whether it's Lindsey, whether it's Freeman. They've got a good running game. I've got to go with the Broncos.
See, I'm going to be on the other side, and Mark is actually going with me here with his pick. I'm going to go with the Ravens. And for me, it's 2 things. First off, this game for the Ravens is going to answer, was last week bad just because the Bengals play up to play the Ravens? I mean, look at the week 17 game last year where the Bengals beat them to knock them out of the playoffs. But number 2, was that first game of the year because you were playing really good at home or because you played Nathan Peterman and the Bills? And that'll be the answer this week. And I am leaning more towards Ravens are going to get more going at home with those fans behind them. Not going to be as big as a blowout as they had to the Bills, but I do expect the Ravens to just edge out the Broncos, and the Broncos will fall for the first time this season. Although, if you're keeping track at home, I should actually root for the Broncos because I had the Broncos in my playoff predictions. I did not have the Ravens, so a Bronco win would help me be right. Then our last noon game, we've got the G-Men going up against the Houston Texans. And for me, Mark and I are pretty divided on this one, Brandon, so we're going to need you to break the tie. I am going with the G-Men to get their first win. Mark is going with the Texans to get their first win. Who gets their first win? The Texans are a 6-point favorite.
Well, quick question for you. Is J.J. Watt still on this defense for Houston?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, that's the thing where if he doesn't play, yes, it goes heavily into the Giants' favor.
Is Jadeveon Clowney still on the defense for Houston? Is Eric Flowers still on the offensive line for the Giants?
Sadly.
Yeah. The Texans are going to beat the crap out of the Giants because there's not going to be any time for Eli to throw. The Houston Texans defensive line is going to be all over the Giants, like almost every defensive line is, because the Giants, while yes, they can stand up and say, hey, we made a change in our offensive line. We got one new player. No, well, now your center's gone for the year. He's out for the season. Your backup's going to be in there. Eric Flowers, how he still has a freaking job is beyond me.
He was originally with the Chiefs, right?
He is so bad. Different guy.
Okay.
Is it Eric?
I think I'm Eric. I think it was Eric Flowers, or am I thinking?
It is Eric Flowers, is it not, for the Giants?
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm probably thinking of someone different for the Chiefs, which I'm going to look up.
Brandon Flowers?
No, not Brandon Flowers. Brandon Flowers was on defense. You might be right. You might be thinking the guy I'm thinking of. Eric Flowers. No, Eric Flowers has been Eric Fisher. That's who I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Eric Fisher, who they drafted with the number 1 pick out of CMU. That's who I'm thinking. But
I was right on Eric Flowers.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm thinking Eric Fisher.
He's horrible. He has been kind of what he is encompassed what this Giants offensive line is.
Just a 9th round pick.
That's the whole
or 9th overall pick.
9th round. When do they have so many? But
2020.
I really think that with the Giants, if their offensive line was anything, I'd probably be picking the Giants. But I mean, look at what Eli had this past weekend. I think at one point he was like 17 of 23, and his 17 completions had gotten him 111 yards. And like 50 of them had gone to Saquon Barkley on 9 catches. So if this is what this Giants offense is going to be, it's going to be a long season for New York. They were able to hang a little bit against Jacksonville week 1, but I don't think they're going to be able to hang against the Texans. Not on the road, not in Houston. The Texans should be able to come out and have their way against a Giants defense that always overpromises and underdelivers.
And just to double check, 'cause I didn't put it on the spreadsheet, you picked the Broncos over the Ravens, right?
I did.
Okay, just to make sure I got that right. The next game we're looking at, Mark and I both going with Mark going with the Texans like Brandon, I'm going with the Giants. The next one, Chargers at the Rams. The Battle of LA happens. I'm going with the Rams just because it's easy. The Chargers are banged up. The Rams are not. The Rams look really good. Mark agrees with me. He's also going with the Rams. Are you going to make it the trifecta?
Yeah, I'm making the trifecta. The Rams just are way too good. It's not. I mean, the Chargers have the offense to be able to keep up with them, but I think the Rams' defense is going to make too many plays.
And then another one that Mark and I are divided. I am going Cowboys in Seattle. Mark is going with the 12th man, Seattle losing on Monday Night Football to your and Mark's Chicago Bears. Break the tie. You going with the Seahawks? You going with the 12th man? Are you going with the Cowboys to get the win on the road?
Overall, after you look at the entire game, the Seahawks looked pretty bad. I've got to go with the Cowboys. While they didn't have a pretty win,
the defense just ain't the same in Seattle.
Against the Giants, they still got the win. Mm-hmm. It was a good bounce back win after a rough game week 1 against Carolina. You're absolutely right. The defense in Seattle is not the same. They're old. The guys aren't there anymore. Mm-hmm. This is very different. And again, I think it's one of those things. Doug Baldwin's not in there at receiver right now for the Seahawks. No one knows when he might be back. Russell Wilson is trying to find guys to throw to, and it's been a struggle. Cowboys.
And then the last two, the primetime games. The first one happening in D-Town, Detroit, this Sunday night. The Patriots against Matt Patricia, bringing Bill Belichick to town to play the Lions, and Bill Belichick will win. This will be like Nick Saban in the college ranks of like the former coordinators. I feel like Bill Belichick is the same as Nick Saban in this respect, that like the former coordinators don't stand a chance against Bill Belichick. Patriots with the win.
The former coordinator record is just terrible. I mean, they showed a graphic of it on CBS during the game, I think, this past week, and it was like, wow, they're not good. They shouldn't try and go off and get their own head coaching job. Just stay under Belichick. But
I mean, that's what Josh McDaniels did. I'm going to go to Denver, and I'm back.
And then I'll go be your coach, Indy.
No, I like it better here.
No, I'm not going to be. So I'm going to go with the Patriots as well. But I will say the Lions will make it close. Mm-hmm. They're at home, and this is now their second time in 3 weeks that they've had a primetime stage. They're not going to screw it up as badly as they did last time, but the Patriots will win.
And Mark also going at the Patriots makes it to trifecta. Then the last game, the Monday night contest in Tampa. Steelers looking for their first win. Buccaneers have not lost. Will it be a magical day for the Buccaneers on Monday night?
It's a magical day. Why would you change?
Holy crap, we're going trifecta on this one too.
Why would you change from what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been doing? Why would you go away from what from thinking that what they're doing might just all of a sudden cease to exist against a Pittsburgh Steelers defense that gave up 42 points last week to the Kansas City Chiefs and then couldn't even beat the Cleveland Browns in week 1? There's no reason for me right now to think that the Buccaneers can't win this game at home.
Man, I thought I was going to be one of the only ones to pick the Bucs in this one, so I had like a huge speech of like, yeah, I'm going with no, we're all picking the Bucs. I was not expecting that. And then the very last thing we do before we end the podcast, Brandon, is we do an eliminator challenge here on the Onside Kick. So for the first week, because we forgot to do it, we both had the Browns. Because there was a tie, did not count. We just can't pick the Browns again, because let's be honest, we'll never pick the Browns again this season. Last week, Mark and I both picked the LA Chargers to beat the Bills. That did happen. I will let you go first. I will let you take the honors. Who is going to be your eliminator pick this week to, yes, I am locking it in, this team will win guaranteed? I'm hitting you with a shocker here.
You're not hitting me with a shocker. I don't know if I can do it. Again this week. Because I would have probably gone Vikings over the Bills, but the Bills were already involved with something. So I'll go away from that. I'll say the Jaguars. Jaguars,
All right.
I'm locking them in. Jaguars will beat the Titans at home.
Because it's funny you say that because Mark and I, yet again, Mark picked the same team as I. And Mark and I, again, are going with the same. We're going to have to, one of these times, pick different teams. But we're both riding and dying on whoever plays the Bills is bound to win, right? So Mark, actually, I'll be honest, Mark didn't. He did all of his picks on the sheet and forgot to put in his eliminator. And I was going to put in the Vikings. So because he mentioned that last week and I was going to do it again, I just gave him the same team. So even if he loses, we're both out together.
That's hysterical.
And if we win, we're both in together. So that's going to be our mindset this week, much like it was last week. Because I let him go first, and he was like, I'm just going to go with whoever's playing the Bills. And I went, God dang it. Like, I was going to do that. I was like, that's what I was going to do. But let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Who would be your eliminator pick this week? What are you thinking for some of these games? What are your picks for this week? Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. Also, make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast to help support the channel. Also, you can go get yourself an MVP t-shirt. Both of those links down below in the description. You can also get a t-shirt at mostvaluablepodcast.com where you can catch MVP each and every day. And last but not least, if you're on Apple iTunes, you're on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. Wow, it's been a long night.
You're on Apple and you're on podcasts.
Please give us a 5-star rating. It would mean the world to us and let people know why they should listen to the podcast each and every week. I want to thank you guys for listening to this longer edition of The Onside Kick. Me and Brandon love to talk. This will be like a 2-hour podcast, I think, with how long these segments will be. This will be definitely the longest pick segment that we've had in a while, but I love doing it with you, B. Thank you for stepping in for Mark, who could not.
Thanks for asking me.
I can't remember why Mark can't be here, but he couldn't be here for some reason or another. But
probably important married things that we wouldn't know.
Maybe, or it was work or something. I can't remember, but he'll be back next week. Thank you guys for listening on podcast services around the world. Thank you guys for watching us on YouTube. And as always, have a good day, everybody.